Alleged Mermaid's MC, Derek Hanebury, is a Portaborni writer of poet fiction and creative nonfiction, who taught writing here at North Island College for many years. His latest book, Both Sides Now, is a collaboration of short stories, fiction, with two of his past students. His upcoming solo collection, entitled Something Else Altogether, will be coming out this fall. Take it away, Derek.
Okay, thanks very much, Karl, and welcome everyone. Great to have you here on a Sunday afternoon to this special session of Electric Mermaid, where we're so delighted to have Kamal Parmar here with us to share some of her poetry and give everybody a chance to get to know her. For those of you who don't know her, I know some of you do already. Those of you who are regulars on the Electric Mermaid have heard Kamal read, I'm sure, quite a few times, but we're going to get to do a deeper dive today, and that's always a treat. So let me start by saying that we're coming to you thanks to Char at Char's Landing. She's our Zoom host, and Char's Landing and where I am seated right now, we're on the unceded territory of the Hepetcheseth and Sishat First Nations, and we're grateful to them to be sharing their land with us today. And we're grateful for everybody who could make it. And just a couple of kind of housekeeping tips here. You are going to be muted by the host here. And hopefully we'll have some time maybe towards the end for some open mic Q&A. But in the meantime, if you have a question you'd like to pose, you can always put it in the chat box. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Zoom, if you go down to the bottom of your Zoom page, you'll see the word chat. And if you click on that, a little chat box should pop up on the side. You can move that around as you need, and just kind of keep one eye on that if you want as we're going along. And I'll try to do that as well. And we can ask questions that way, so we don't have to try and unmute and go through that, or you don't have to wave frantically at me, because I can't always see all the windows at the same time. So yeah, grateful for you all to be here and looking forward to hearing some more of Kamal's poetry. Let me tell you a little bit about her first. She's obviously a poet and a writer. She's from Vancouver Island and Nanaimo, I believe. And she's been passionately involved in writing since high school and university years. And we're going to dig into a little bit more and find out exactly when that all started. But she likes poetry and creative nonfiction and dabbles frequently with haiku, the Japanese form. And she's got a few books published in the UK and Canada and India, and many publications in the US and Canadian literary journals and anthologies. And many poems have received honorable mentions and prizes. She's a member of several writers' organizations, including the Writers Guild, and she's currently an associate member of the League of Canadian Poets and a board member of the Federation of BC Writers. She's also a member of Haiku Canada, Canadian Authors Association, and the Writers Union of Canada, with whom she's a voluntary peer reviewer. So really blessed to have you with us today, Kamal, and so looking forward to hearing some of your work. But before we dive in there, I just want to maybe ask a real simple question about when did this all start for you? What was that? What was it that got you bitten by the poetry bug? We all tend to have usually one moment where we just know, oh my God, this is what I want to do. When was that for you?
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much, Derek, for this lovely introduction. I don't know if I deserve it, and I'll try and do a deep dive into my poetry. So, it started way back when I was a child, and I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child, so I was just brought up around books, and I just loved books. Books became my companions. So even as a kid, you know, I had to just scribble and doodle all over, and my mom would say, "Hey, don't! What are you doing?" And the paper's going to the garbage. But I wrote a poem, and the first poem was something. It was titled "Music of Rain," and with a great deal of trepidation, I gave it to my school teacher, and he said, "Hey, that's poetry. Come on, let's put your poem into the magazine." And then everyone liked it. I got a good sort of feedback, and from then on I just loved poetry. So you know, it's my second love after my family. Yeah, and there's no looking back, though
Mhm.
writing is a difficult career for sure.
Beautiful. Well,
Thank you.
and I notice there's a lot of imagery from the natural world in your work. And so does that tend to be your source of inspiration then?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a nature lover. I like to go out for walks, and and I find there's beauty all around us. If only we could, like the poet Wordsworth says, to stand and stare. And we don't have the time. We lead such busy lives, and this word stress, which I hate actually, but I use it also personally and that has really caught us. It's like a bug, and I wish we could, look inward and read, because I think there's poetry in all of us in whatever way we can say it, and we need to, really look and inwards and write. So I
Hmm.
love that. My poetry is basically nature, writing about the language of nature.
Hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, and I love the way you blend those. It's the outer world and the inner world where they come together and find that expression in language. It's that's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Super. All right. Well, let's hear a couple of poems, and I've posted in the chat book some places where people can get a hold of your books if they're interested in doing so. Um, but if you want to just maybe mention a little bit more about that as you go along, and just show us the covers of your books too, we'd love to see them.
Yeah, definitely. So as I read my poems, I'll hold up the book if it's visible. I hope so. Anyway, let's begin with I'm grateful to you for taking the time off your busy schedule and listening to my humble contribution to the muse of poetry. I would like to acknowledge the fact that I'm reading from the unceded traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nations. I would also like the Canada Council of Arts, the Writers Union of Canada, as well as the BC Arts Council for the support in giving grant for my virtual reading. Lastly, of course, my great thanks to the organizers of Char's Landing, whole lot of them, Derek, Karl, Charlene, and others. So let's connect with the muse of poetry, which is really, we need that, especially in these times, COVID times, and let's pause and reflect. Today, I'm going to read from my first book. Um, this is the book, the title is Fleeting Shadows. And this, when I came from India, which is my original country, my first place was in the prairies, the heart of Canada, or the heart of where it's really, really cold. And I was not prepared for, certainly for minus 20, minus 30 degrees temperature, cold. But I love that place, and I did most of my writings over there, and I got to meet a lot of writers in residence, and also the poet laureate of Saskatchewan, Louise Half, who really mentored me in writing poems, and she inspired me to write further. So I'd like to read a few poems um, from this book. So my first poem will be Since We Are in Spring. So let me welcome spring with this small, humble contribution. Cause spring is here. Naked branches no longer mute skeletons. The cherry tree in the corner is a burst of pink spray. Listen, lilies sway and dance in sun-flecked valleys, the air laced with pine. Magpies call, robins chirp on slender branches of Granny Smith apple trees heavy with fruit. Children's hands so full of freshly plucked blueberries, their rosy faces smeared blue. Baby's pink frock sticky with strawberry jam as she licks her lips in sheer delight, then runs into the open to chase an orange-streaked butterfly that just slithered out of his cloistered cocoon. Sunset lingers over tawny skies, twilight fans across the ocean, onto hazy blue mountains wrapped in silver mist. Night tiptoes in, hushed while the evening star casts a spell. Far away city lights dance and flicker in the shimmering ocean waters. A seagull calls, soars beyond sight. Well, this is about the spring here on the island, you may well have guessed. So let me take you down to the prairies. Driving down a prairie highway. I have a long way to go. The highway, a straight line, barren stretches of heaving grasslands, pockmarked with scraggly scrub and bush. I feel alone, the silence cold. Keep my hand on the steering wheel, listen to the steady hum of the engine, try to focus on the black thread of the highway that curves and dips and finally makes a U-turn around the hills wrapped in heavy mist. Outside it's minus 20 degrees. I adjust the heater and turn on the radio. Soft music crackles in the air. Someone croons a 70s song, keeps me from falling asleep. I put the Cavalier on cruise, feel relieved but heavy-eyed. The dusty dome of sky slowly turns a silver gray. It is almost twilight on the eastern horizon. Faint lights flicker in a few homesteads neatly tucked away behind naked willows and bald hills. In the distant east, the wintry sky changes color from scarlet to a muted gray. Shades of darkness close in. Thank you. So let me go back. Let me go to India now and share some memories about how it was. So as a kid, I used to observe all these most not very prominent scenes, very obscure kind of scenes. Go walking in, I see a kid over there, like a boy, or he's hunting around for berries or looking around for food somewhere, begging for food, and that would kind of go into deep down into my mind, and then I would bring it up when or should I say surface it up when I would write. So this is about a granny from India. Now they have huge families over there with the grandmother and like an extended family. So you can see the chaos, yet there's respect and reverence. She sits the head of the table, tall and buxom, hair peppered with grey. Above her fair and oval face, deep eyes innocent as a gazelle's. Her heart swelled with pride, like a mother hen clucking over her brood. She seemed to remember it all. Caring mother, a doting granny and nurse, a water lily that floats over silky waters. Faint aroma of palau and spicy vegetable fills the air. Her family hears her soft voice, words of grace. Her mind travels to thoughts about home, food spread before her. Oh, there sits my son, his dimpled face, the lingering fragrance of fresh soup and lavender. Aha, still plays pranks on his wife. She muses on. Dappled shade of the lemon tree, my youngest son's favorite haunt. That red swing in the corner, those thoughtful and quiet eyes. Can't forget the day he went missing. I nearly died, she sighs softly. My hands have grown so rough, mollycoddling my brood. It's time I called it a day, she ponders. Can't forget your grandchildren, a voice pipes in from another place. Who will spin little yarns of fantasy to my little sister? Sing songs to Usha and rock her to sleep? Yet this voice insists you have to devote time in prayer. After all, you're almost over the hill. Who knows? Grandma, please tell us your story. How did you find Grandpa? Two chubby faces crowd around her. She wakes up from her reverie and holds them tightly in lingering embrace. Thank you. Thanks.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's take a little break there, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Kamal, and we'll just talk a little bit. Those are very moving, and I love the specificity of your poems. You get right into the details and and concrete details so that we enter that world as a reality. So I'm curious about your process as a writer. You mentioned about seeing a boy begging for food and how that might impact you, and then you go home and write about it. So what do you go through in your process? Is there a regular kind of process you have? Does it vary? I'm curious.
Well, yeah, because you know, when I go for a long walk, and usually it's quite strange, but I like to go for walks alone because then I can not commune with nature. You know, I find it's beautiful. I look at the lovely hills and mountains, especially here on this lovely heaven of a place, and I find, you know, and they just create images in my mind, and words kind of flow in, and then I go and quickly jot down the words, and then I say, okay, now I must sit down in my study and let me frame something out of it. And then, you know, I have an infrastructure of a so-called poem, but then I set it aside, and it takes me a couple of days, sometimes a week, to really polish it up. Because every time I read it, I suppose it's with every writer and poet, you find, oh no, this is wrong. I've got to keep juggling with words, and it's like a vicious cycle. You know, you just don't know which is the right word until you say, okay, enough is enough. I think that's all, and then you move on. Yeah, and then when I have a collection of poems, you know, I like to. I often join, you know, my writers' clubs and organizations where they do some mentorship, and you know, to further get my poems critiqued, because I love positive critiques and I love negative also. If somebody says your poetry is not very visual, or it is monotonous, or you should put more similes or metaphors or alliteration, I do that. I love to do it because then I find my poems improve a lot. And then poetry is a learning experience. Actually, I feel you learn from the cradle to the grave. That's what life is. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more about getting feedback from other people and how helpful that can be.
Yes.
That's great. And I'm curious, did you always write in English?
Yes, I did.
Poetry?
Yes,
Okay.
I
All right.
always, I think and write in English, even though I'm from India. I was fortunate enough to do my schooling from the University of Cambridge. It's a senior Cambridge is called. That had affiliation with the education system in India. And then I also studied in a whole lot of convent schools, and, you know, and just loved English. I loved the Victorian poets, and those poets had a great influence on my writing, especially Wordsworth and Keats and Shelley.
Well, and made me think about Wordsworth when you were saying you like to go on long walks to get your inspiration. I mean, he used to compose them as he was on his walks, right? And
Yes.
and then he'd come home and write them down. Similar process to what you're
Yes,
doing.
especially
Yeah.
his poem on the daffodils, if you remember, maybe as a
Yes.
kid, someone able to recall that poem.
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
Solitary Reaper. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful work. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, let's hear a couple more poems then. Do you want to keep reading
Yeah.
out of Fleeting Shadows or go on?
I think one poem from Fleeting Shadows, and then I can go on to the other book for another, couple of minutes. So this is again about my beautiful stay in Saskatoon. Warm up for winter in Saskatoon. The day ebbs, sighs to the cold Arctic wind, a lost soul. Feeble sun plods wearily across cloudless sky, flushed pink over snow, or winter's cape. Mother Earth slumbers, gaunt skeletons of birch and willow, silent spectres, engulfed by the swirling mist that gnaws away from the hollow cavern of the night. Night sky shines with a sprinkling of stars. Pale moon hangs in the wintry sky, fanned by a raw wind that numbs the body and the mind. Cottages and neat hamlets buried in thick piles of snow, a soft glow of inviting hearts and smell of hearty chicken soup. As rosy-cheeked children giggle and peep through heavily draped French windows, Arctic wind picks up speed, breathing frost. The earth shudders, but the children remain snug in a soft cocoon of love. Thank you. Okay, so I like to read from this book. I don't know if you could read it. In the Rising Mist. Sorry if you can't read the title. I suppose there's too much of glare. I'm not too tech savvy. Okay, so Silvery Reflections in India. Now, India is in the tropical zone, so it's quite warm, and the summers are long. So when you see, the full moon and the stars, it's as good as if I can say, the living skies of Saskatchewan. Moonlight tiptoes across silent moors that lie in quiet splendor. A crescent moon hangs limp, a comma in the blackboard sky. Silver shingles of light dance on rippled waters like little accordions of light. Tall shadows of ornate lampposts stretch across the deserted road. A lonely bird, perhaps a nightjar, scurries across from one hawthorn bush to the other. The moon wrapped in wispy cloud as the world lies in darkness. A few stars appear faint. The town sleeps under a magic spell, ringed by a silver halo. I toss in bed, think of this universe, think of myself. Can I ever solve the riddle that is life? The silence broken by the faint notes of a flute in the distance. Is this a melody of life? Thank you. Okay, the next poem is titled Mother and Daughter. Anyone, any questions, or should I move? Would you be able to read it?
Oh,
Okay,
go ahead and
sure.
read.
I'll read a bit slowly. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. It was a walk like no other, the same gravelled path, same crunch of shoes, the same shape of flower beds with the white blooming roses and the calendula hedge, skirting the path to the back wall of the garden, except that the roses have grown and in need of pruning. The calendula hedge needs more cutting. The old brick wall has overgrown ivy on it. You and me have walked this way umpteen times, your tiny footsteps faltering, that many a time I had to stop and coax you to walk till the next petunia bed. But no, you stood your ground, shaking your head from side to side, till I had to pick you up and walk with you piggyback. I still remember your baby talk full of enthusiasm, your bending down on your knees and getting gritty sand onto your pink pinafore, plucking a brilliant yellow marigold with your tiny hands, till you fell back with a plonk onto the ground, the flower still intact, with your pudgy fingers curled around it. It was a lovely walk, the path threading its way through the dense shade of the mango trees, looping around the old vine creepers, past the half-dried pond where the bulrushes once grew, coming back to the red cobblestone pathway near the porch. Time slipped by. Today I walk with you, a faltering step. You hold my hand, a hand so frail and bony. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that, the way you invoke the passage of time and the contrast and the circular nature of it all, right?
Yes,
We
because,
them and
yeah,
they help. Yeah,
because life is a circle, it is.
absolutely. So let me ask you a couple questions, and again, I invite anybody who has a question to throw it in the chat, and I'll ask it. But we will at the end. We'll open it up. But in the meantime, if you've got a burning question, throw it out there and we'll pass it along. So I'm just wondering about what would you say is the most pleasurable thing about writing for you, and what's the most challenging thing?
Oh, that's a tough question. It helps me. After I finish writing, I find a strange kind of peace and contentment, and I feel happy. I don't care if things have gone bad with with me. Rest of the day I might be grumpy or whatever. But once I write, it's a kind of it has a cathartic effect, and poetry heals. It heals in a very big way. So it's been really good for me to write poetry, and the most difficult thing for me to write poetry, was that the question? Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, what's the hardest part of it for you? Is it getting started, finding the subject,
Yes,
revising?
yes, you got it all. Finding the right words, finding the right words and writing, and then you get so irritated with, you lose patience. You say, look, you saw such a beautiful scene outside, and I'm thinking I'm going to write, and then you cannot find the right words, and what the heck. And then you
Mm,
just keep sort of digging into your brain, and then you come across a word which you think is right. Well, you think it's right, you write it, and then the next day you go back to it, and then you say, "Hey, how dare I write this? I've got to think of another word." So I keep going round and round, and of course, when you feel you're satisfied, you're kind of saturated, and then you feel like if I can say, like a winner, you say, "Okay, hey, I've got this point."
mhm.
Yeah, I
So
hope
there
that answers. Yeah.
you do get to that place where you feel like the poem is done and you've finally got the right words in the right order and the right line breaks and everything's set. Eh?
Yes, but I mean, it's infinity, I won't say it's the right place. I still feel, if I show it to someone, they might say this. There's still scope for improvement. My no poetry is the end all. I'm not a, poet laureate or a William Wordsworth. I'm just a simple poet. Yeah.
That's one of the good things about publishing books the way you have, is that then you can say, okay, they're done. I can
I
leave
know.
them.
Yeah, they're done. I don't care if someone
Really,
buys them or not.
yeah, can't go any further with that one. All right. And so that's the challenging part, and then the joy and the inspiration, the satisfaction that you get from them. That's beautiful. Just checking the chat box. Nope, no questions there. I have one other one here though. Um, what has been the biggest obstacle for you towards becoming a poet? Was there a big thing that you had to overcome?
Uh, Not really. I mean, I just loved my poetry, and I carried on with it. But I also juggle my other profession. I'm a bit into healthcare, and sometimes, that comes in the way. So then I put that aside, and then I say, no, I've got to attend to that also. But for my inner self, for my inner being, it's more poetry. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's been a difficult. Sometimes it's difficult, but then I'm resolute in writing poetry. I said I have to write.
Mhm.
There is
Mhm.
something which is asking me to write.
Yeah. Compelling you to, right?
Yes, compelling is the right word.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you've got to have that expression, yeah, and that satisfaction that keeps you going, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
contentment. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I forget who it was who said that that's the writer's job, is to show people what they're too busy to observe, and I really feel that in your work, that you slow down enough and stop and observe and ponder and contemplate,
Yes.
and it really comes across in your work. So
Thank
that's
you.
great.
Thank you. Very kind of you.
All right. Um, I've got a question in the chat here from Jackie. She says, Kamal, it's so beautiful to see your eyes shining in a special way every time you say poetry. Well, that was from Myra, sorry. But before that, all right. Yeah, so Kamal, you've written poetry about your mother's journey through Alzheimer's. How difficult or helpful was it to chronicle that?
Yes, this is from my recent book, Still Waters, and I'm going to, if there's time, I'll read a poem, two out of that. Um, it was difficult. It was. But something in me told me that I knew that writing helps to heal. So I said I must bring it in the form of poetry. I mean, yes, I agree it was initially difficult, but once I wrote and once I read the poem, I felt it was kind of a tribute. And I also wanted to send a message to everyone out there, you know, that life has its hurdles, life has its ups and downs. And if you don't have hope and optimism, if you don't face life squarely, otherwise, I mean, then you get walked over. I mean, because you only live once, so you have to be brave and move on in life. So that's one of my message, you know, a few messages, or main message, I should say, that I want to convey in this book, in my poems.
That's a beautiful thing that, you know, you write the poems because they're healing for you, but then you put them out there in a book and they become healing for others, and others find solace in them, because I'm going through the same thing with my mother-in-law right now that you went through with your mother, and it's very hard. So when we can read someone else's experience and say, oh, we're not alone in this, it's a beautiful
Yes,
thing. So
that's
yeah,
right. We are not alone. That's the main thing in life. We are all together.
yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's hear some more poems, Kamal.
So should I read from this? Then we are talking of this poetic
It would
memoir.
be a good segue for sure. If you want to go there, that would
Yeah.
be fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is titled A Lone Stranger. Who am I? A child, a human, or a monster? I see with my eyes, yet I am blind. Blind to what I see. She says, I'm your sister. No, I say you are the neighbor next door who sent us strawberries last summer. I hear, but I'm deaf. Deaf to what my daughter tells me. I love you, Mom. I don't hear you, I retort back. I don't even know you. I hear no sighs, nor see those tears sliding down your pallid cheek. I can speak, but I'm dumb, because what I speak is alien to you. My tongue only knows garbled words that drop like stones out of a drooling mouth. I live with faces that stare at me, distorted and disfigured. I live with ghosts that come alive through the inky darkness. They keep me company at night. Their blank stares frighten me no more. I'm a stranger to myself. Thank you. In dreams we have walked together. You have walked with me in dreams full of mist-wrapped valleys and lavender fields. Today I dream of solitary alleys. You walked with me in dreams filled with golden daffodils dancing in the jasmine-scented breeze. Today we walk among the stubble, the air so strangely still. Why, I ask, have my dreams turned into nightmares? Somewhere something snapped between us. You became someone else, someone I recognize no more, as you are not you. I have become a stranger to you. Have I lost you? Mother dear, how I yearn for that look, that long gone sparkle in your eyes, that angelic smile, and that warm, lingering embrace. I fear I will never get you back from the dark, forbidden world where you now live. But my hopes rekindle. I will never, ever give up trying. Thank you. Okay, so one poem. Thanks. This is titled Never to Forget. They say it is Alzheimer's disease, disease of the decades. I say, no, it is merely getting old. Brain fog hits us all. Why make a fuss? My granny, a retired professor from Harvard, how can she have Alzheimer's disease? You must be kidding. Not even in my wildest dreams. She may have at times forgotten the way back home from the grocery store around the bend. She may have kept the car keys in the sugar bowl, stumbled over simple sentences, slipped up on the date. It just seemed it was my dear old granny growing old. But now, often her eyes are blank as slate, her smile flattens out, her communication runs in small circles. Last year she told me tales from Aesop's fables. Now the doctor says she has Alzheimer's disease. I swallow hard. The light of the dying day filters out. I follow the dancing lights of the cars below, moving across her room, then back again. Something snapped, leaving a hollowed heart. I will never be the same. Thank you.
Beautiful. Very, very moving, very moving. That first poem that you read, which is more from your mother's perspective, I'd love to hear your a little bit about that and what that was like for you to try and enter into her that much, to see the world from the inside, and how was that? And it created a beautiful, beautiful poem out of it.
Well, initially, like everyone, you don't believe, like in my poem, this last one, or before that, you think, everyone has brain fog, you just forget, oh, hey, what's the day? What did I have for supper yesterday? That kind of a thing. But then as, she sort of, her memory declined, and then we had to sort of get the medical diagnosis done. And that was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. I mean, you go into deep sort of abyss of why she, or why, it's like, why me, they say. I mean, you really feel sad. But then you have to rise up, and that requires willpower. That really requires willpower, and then you seek solace in prayer, or your loved one, your family support. And then you have to rise up, otherwise you just fall into a vortex. So, and then you have to accept it. I just accepted it. And so when I started writing these poems, I mean, there were times when I had to stop writing because I became quite emotional, which is natural. But then you get back to it, and then you feel the kind of sense of relief. Yeah. So poetry heals. I mean, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you write? Would you say you write more for the page, or for to be heard out loud? Both. Is there a difference between that for you in poetry?
Yeah, I don't write to sort of earn money, or writing is not a business, because then it's a sacred. It's something which is sacred, for me. And I just write for the love of writing. I just love words. And if someone says, okay, what have you written? Read your poem. I read it, and if they like it, and then, I mean, I get a sense of, it inspires me to write more. I say, okay, there's someone out there who says, okay, I am worth, it's worth the trouble of writing. Yeah. Because I got this quote, if I may, from a great author and a poet by the name of Emcee Dillard. And she writes, when you write, you lay out a line of words. This line of words is a miner's pick, a woodpecker's gouge, and a surgeon's probe. You wield it out, and it digs a path for you. You follow it. That is the true essence of poetry. So that has been my kind of a guiding light to me, because it's beautiful. And you breathe. You can breathe words, you can feed words if you really write with passion.
Mhm. And I guess what I was trying to get at there too was, for you, does poetry need to be read aloud, or is it okay just on the page?
Oh, I
Uh,
see. Okay.
yeah.
I don't know if I like to read it loud also. If the audience has the patience to, otherwise I say, okay, they say, please go away. It's too monotonous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
mind,
yeah,
because
no,
reading aloud, gets your feelings into it in a more effective way.
yeah, absolutely. And I think when we read it aloud, we hear the music and the language that much more, right? And it's more impactful for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I know some poets, I think they tend to really write just for on the page, but I don't get that
No.
sense from your work. I
No.
said
Yes.
it's meant to be
That's
shared.
right. Yes.
Absolutely.
Because that is like oxygen to your body,
Yeah,
reading aloud.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Maybe do you want to share a little bit about your influences in terms of, are there particular poets that you go to? Well, you mentioned before about the Victorian poets and that. Are there any more current poets that inspire you these days?
Um, Current poets. Well, yes, there is, I forget her name, Maya Angelou. She
Mhm.
passed away and she wrote beautifully. I, in fact, got her book from the library. I forget the title. She really influenced. I liked her poetry. Very simple, yet
Mhm.
very thought-provoking and poignant. But one of the poems that really influenced me, and when it's lying on my desk study table, is the poem by Rudyard Kipling, the British
Mhm.
poet laureate.
Right.
The poem "If." I think all of us have read it.
Mhm.
If.
Yes, the F is one of his most famous for sure.
Yes, yes,
I think that's
and I
David.
think yes, it's got the
David.
crux of the essence of how you should move forward in life. And he wrote this after he lost his son. So instead of grieving about it, he said, "This is my advice to the rest of the world."
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, well, let's have just a couple more poems, and then I think we'll maybe throw it open for
Yes,
some Q&A from everybody.
um, yes, I can read. Yeah, so okay, this is a very scenic sort of. This is about India. So in India, you have a lot of these vendors or roadside sort of people who are selling stuff, little knickknacks and groceries, or they have those, what should I call them? Those betel nut leaves, and they're wrapped in something sweet. You chew on them like peanuts. It's like peanut brittle, so they sell it on the road. Sometimes you find in little towns. So I used to observe these people, and I say, hey, I wonder. I mean, what's his story? What does he do? What's his life? So the the seller near the roadside. Sun-flecked red cobbled pavement swept clean by grey uniformed janitors, using robotic sweeping strokes with their long-handled brooms. It is the usual mess of bird droppings, scraps of paper, empty ice cream cones, half-burned cigarette stubs, crumpled paper napkins, grit, and whatever is left behind of yesterday's grind. Anita usually sits at the far end, under the dense shade of the old neem tree that has stood there for years and years. She sits on an old bamboo stool with a wooden stand, displaying plates with neatly arranged leafy green betel nut leaves in concentric circles, bright red betel nuts set in a floret in the center. She sits upright, her neat yellow cotton sari folded in gathers, except that the tear of the frayed fabric is not visible. She has only one more dress, her late mother's. dark shiny hair tied into a tight plait. She forces her face into a smile at each passer-by. Her eyes follow everyone in the hope that someone would stop to at least buy one palm leaf, betel nut leaf or two to make her day. Today there's the usual rush of commuters, men with slick hairstyles, glossy suits and ties, running a race against time. Others reluctantly saunter on their way to work. A school bus whizzes past, shouts of children's voices trailing behind. A horse cart clip-clops by, leaves behind a heavy smell of stale hay. Scooters, cars, buses, and cycles weave in and out. A stray dog hobbles nearby and hisses not far away from her. A young man in a bandana stops and whistles at her. Hey, beautiful. She looks the other side. She doesn't care. All she's thinking of is that she will go hungry again tonight. But what about her ailing father? Thank you. This is a slightly thought-provoking poem. Um, so, time, can you ever return? Memory, like a full-blown flower, sheds its petals along the road of life. I trudge along past milestones, loops, and turns, at times whizzing past. Other times I drag my feet, heavy like lead, through a pathway overgrown with nettles and wild bush, a rush of memories, raw and painful, rear their heads like coiled snakes. I recoil, bury the milestone till no trace exists. My new self is born. I pause, run my fingers over another milestone. I'm a pig-tailed girl in a skirt with red plaids. My eyes are star-studded as I clutch a Barbie doll close to my body. And then I run like the wind, dodging fuchsias and geranium bushes in hot chase of a butterfly. I hear my mother calling. Now the butterflies are gone. I walk alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamal. That was very moving. All right, Char, if you would unmute us all, and maybe we'll just see if people have any questions they'd like to ask Kamal directly. And I'm going to start it off just by asking you, Kamal, would you have any advice for any aspiring poets out there that might be thinking that they want to get started but don't know where to begin? Or
Yes, I know. Well, the first thing I would say is please do not look back and say, I cannot write. Just carry on. I would always like to literally give them a push. Don't mind if you get any amount of rejection letters or if you're in school, your teacher scolds you or say, what is this? This is gibberish. But just please carry on writing because it is a slow and steady, it's a difficult process, climbing uphill. It's not a plateau but once you reach the peak, then you find yourself, you've done something in life. But to reach the peak, you have to face a lot of storms. And don't look back, please. Yeah, because every rejection letter is like a you can say it helps you just move forward in life.
yeah, I think the famous words are the writers that are successful are the ones who stay in the room, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
don't give up, but just carry on.
Yeah.
And there's so many reasons to write too. It's not all about being published. Like you were saying
Yes.
earlier, the great satisfaction that you feel when you feel like you really express what you wanted to express in the words that are right for you, that's an accomplishment in itself, I think. Eh?
Right. Yeah. To be creative in any way, whether you write, you paint, you do sculpting. I mean, like I said, there's a seed of creativity in all of us, and we need to look into it and tap into it.
For sure. Yeah.
Oh, do you sing any of your poems?
I'm sorry?
Do you sing any of your poems?
No, no, I don't sing. I used to be in the choir, you know, way back in school, but I don't think I can sing now.
So a lot of these singers are famous poetries or poets.
Yes, they're songwriters. Yes, I know. Somebody did tell me that, you know, you should set your poems to, ask someone to, you know, set your poem to music, but I, I really didn't dare to go forward. I didn't think about it.
We can get someone else to do that for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or
Find a
maybe
friend
get
out there.
Karl to sing it for you. Or Karl.
No, I think William will do that for you.
I think Kamal's poems are so beautiful. They're pictures. She writes as an artist, as you know, as a visual artist. The poetry just creates such detailed pictures. Just the last one about the woman selling, you know, the beetle nuts yeah. on the side of the road. I mean, I was just painting the whole picture, and yet she still is able to fill the emotion behind it with just a couple of words about the lady and how she looks and what is going on in her mind. And I think that's such a wonderful talent, Kamal.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Oh, not kind words. They're just truthful words. I mean, you paint all of your poems. Well, not all of them, but most of them, or many of them anyway. The poems about India and on the prairies there around Saskatoon, and even out here, you know, in Nanaimo, you could just sit and listen to you read them. And if you were an artist, you could paint.
I do paint.
Paint the whole picture of what you're saying and still capture the emotion that you have put behind it. I think it's very, very beautiful poet you are.
Oh my God. I don't need such, I'm not.
Yes, you do. You do.
I think you should start painting and then I can do a haiku on it, you know, a scenery write a haiku.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
thank you.
No, your work is really good. You feel like you're there, like the stuff of the India. You just feel like I could just close my eyes and feel like I'm there.
Yeah,
right. Because I've never been there, but I've been to Saskatchewan, so I can totally picture that. But no, it's just amazing. How long did it take you to come up with some of these stuff, like poetry? Like, how long does it take? Do you have to do a lot of drafts, or?
Yeah, I have to do a lot of drafts, but most of my writing I owe it to the prairies. You know, all thanks to Saskatchewan. Yeah, because you know you were shut inside with the snow falling, and then it's I don't know the snow. Is it the snow? Is it the people? Or I just got inspired to write. And the library was really good. The Francis Morrison Library. I still remember the name. So they would have a lot of, and they had I forget the author's name. He got the Booker Man Booker Prize. I'm sorry, the name is slipping. Yeah, I got to know him.
What was the book? What was his book?
Yeah, he was.
Do you remember the book?
Yeah, it's a long time back, you know, in 2000 something. I'll let you know. I'll have to Google. I'll certainly email that. But he was not a poet. He was a fiction and non-fiction writer.
But Sia, maybe? No. Anyway,
Sorry?
David's going to help us out here.
Oh, no, I'm not going to help. I wanted to thank you, your poem about the market, because it occurred to me, it was a beautiful poem. And what occurred to me is that, you know, the uniqueness of a market. And when you write about a market, you cannot write the same way about a shop. People have written about shops, Philip Larkin has written out the department store, but that's a detached, authorial thing. A street market, you are there, and it is wide open, and you don't know what you're going to see, and it is a kind of a happy chaos. It just struck me that's possible I mean, very quick, of all people, the old pop singer Rod Stewart wrote a beautiful line. One of his songs, he said, "I met her on the debris at the Sunday morning market. She was looking for a bargain." It's the sweetest, it's the sweetest image. The debris of a market you can write anything about.
Yes.
So thank you for sort of bringing that to mind.
Thank you for listening.
I like your market. Your market.
Because India's got, actually, there's so much of chaos and commotion there, and it's got almost 1 billion or more of people, all over the place.
Yeah, some of my most vivid memories are definitely from the street in India, and the things that you see. I mean, yeah, you can just walk through the streets and it's incredible, absolutely incredible. Greg, did you have a question there? I don't know if you were trying. No, Myra is. Myra,
yes, thank you. I just wanted to say, Kamal, that, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that the way you observe detail and write about it is very calming. It helped me slow down.
Thank you.
Yeah, and really get into your mind. And so I wanted to tell you I found that helpful, because we need to calm down.
Yes, exactly.
From this super hurried world,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's compounded by the COVID, We are all in such a panic or anxious state,
Anxious,
especially with the news and all the hype.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that, Myra. Anyone else have any comments or thoughts they want to add?
Oh, come on.
We're coming on to 3 o'clock, so if not, we'll wind it up here.
Nobody. Not even. Oh, Jackie must have a question.
Oh, I was just gonna say, lovely reading, Kamal. Good job.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you to have you. I know you're always the heart and soul of every get together.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a show without Jackie.
Yeah.
And everybody else too, of course.
Yeah, yes, Jackie's our artistic director for Electric Mermaid, so she's a lot of what happens with Jackie is done behind the scenes, and she's very humble and modest when it comes to taking praise, but she deserves a lot.
Yeah,
we're grateful for all
she gets. Great people. Oh,
yeah.
It's so much fun to work with this team. You guys are just awesome, and it's so nice to see Micah here tonight, and Karl and Derek, our core team, and of course Char. So, and really lovely to have everybody else drop in. Pat, nice to see you in from Powell River. Or are you on Tuxedo today?
No, we're in Powell River. No travel, right?
Okay. Oh, that's right. Hey, when is your next Cranberry Hall get together?
Oh, well, tonight we have a Cranberry coffee house. So there's four performers. And then we're doing a song circle. We just did it last week. So May 16th is our next song circle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how can people tune into Cranberry Hall?
Oh, basically, if you're on Facebook, you can just search for Cranberry Community Hall. I'll just type it in the chat here. And there's a group there, and they post the Zoom links to the events there.
Right.
Yeah, we had people from Atlanta, Georgia last time performing, and yeah, it's lots of fun.
That's great.
Yeah, this is the upside of the pandemic.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No,
we can all be together and not in the same place.
So it's really nice too, because we did
Cheryl
a
has something to say.
Pride bingo, and there was people from like California. It's amazing Zoom.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Tonight we have somebody from Toronto, all the way from Toronto here. So that's awesome.
Myra.
Yeah, Myra.
Yeah.
Cheryl
there was something in chat about the next Electric Mermaid is May 21st. Yeah. Can you tell us what that's going to be?
Sure. So that's May 21st. It's a third Friday, and starting around 5:30, the doors open. We get started at 6. And Jackie, you better remind me who the featured readers are, because I can't pull that
I
off.
have to look it up. My brain is
Tony, and I know this Tony.
Oh, Tony Dandurand. Okay.
And the other one I can't remember now. Shoot.
I
can check it out online.
Yeah, if you come to, just go to charslanding.com or Google Electric Mermaid. You know, it'll get you there, and the information will definitely be there online. Yeah.
Yes.
And that would be great. So, and just a reminder I know some of you bought tickets for tonight, and some of them were gifted to you or whatever. If you're feeling generous and in the mood, you can always do a e-transfer at charslanding.com to help our gracious host, Char, who does all the Zoom background work and keeps this thing going and keeps her space open. She is hope in our community that the day will come in the not too distant future when we'll be back in that beautiful space, reading face to face. And who knows, we'll probably adapt so that even though we read face to face there, we'll still Zoom it out for people who can't make it, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It'll go on. So thank you so much, Char, for all you do. And again, it's e-transfer at charslanding.com if you're feeling generous. Be much appreciated.
And thank you to Katie, too, for doing again, it's all on and letting us using side doors Zoom thing. Thank you, Katie.
Yes, that was a first for us as well. So yeah, thank you, Katie, for that.
I just wondered, besides Kamal and our host, are there other poets? Are any of the rest of you poets? Myra?
Myra's a poet?
Yeah, she's a songwriter. Yeah. Myra, introduce yourself.
Good for you, Myra. I look forward to your publication.
I might do a publication with Kamal.
Yeah, keeping our fingers crossed.
And then I can do music for her poetry.
Oh, that's
nice.
Awesome. We want to be sure to invite you all to Electric Mermaid, because in addition to having feature readers, we have 5-minute spots. You can sign up for a 5-minute spot.
Cool.
And so you can bring your poetry. Now, the trick to this is you want to register ahead of time for a spot, okay? And so, Karl, let's get that email.
It's in the chat. I put it in the chat.
We'll put it again.
Put it again. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you. Keeping me on my toes.
Reads at gmail.com. And just say, Karl, save me a spot. And then, the link it's really easy to get to. You just go to charslanding.com, and then you just kind of look for the current event that's coming up, and you click on that, and then you go to a Zoom link, and so it's super easy to get to. They don't have to email you anything, but the critical thing is to be sure to send Karl an email. He loves
and I always do remind you before it comes up to say, hey, thanks for registering. I always send out that and
we'd love to hear from you. This is a national, you don't have to be just from BC or just from Port Alberni. You know, we're so beautiful here right on the Alberni Inlet, and Char sits high on a hill with this beautiful view and a fantastic patio and an Electric Mermaid light fixture overhead that's really a lantern that was handmade by dozens of artists. It's an incredible setting, but we recreate the setting virtually. So come and join us and be part of our community. We would love that. Right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'd love to.
Yes, we'd love to hear from all of you. So hang on to that email, send us a note, and we'll look forward to having you with us. It'd be great.
It's great to have Earl and Dorothy, Char's parents here.
Some attention, so I'm going to get out of here. But
okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Electric Mermaid event. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kamal.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Beautiful.
Take care, Arlene.
Thank you for your wonderful.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Kamal.
Thank you, Mano. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Pat.
everyone.
David.
Bye.
Thank you, Dorothy and Earl, for coming out. Char's parents.
Nice.
Oh,
How exciting is that? That's
Yeah,
Yes.
that's special. Definitely special.
Yes, no, it was really good.
good job. Good job.
Yeah.
Wonderful job emceeing, Derek. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Derek.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Derek. And thank you,
Pleasure.
Char and
Thank
Carmel.
you, Derek and Carl. And
Congratulations,
everyone.
Kamal.
Thank you,
That was
Char.
awesome.
Presentation. Beautiful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really nicely
Thank you
done.
for all the support and
Yeah,
giving me the time to read.
that's,
Mhm.
No, you did a great job.
it's definitely
nice.
our pleasure. Yeah.
It's nice to have a more leisurely, you know, when you've got a full hour to do that, to really delve into somebody's work like that, because I really feel like I got a real flavor of you know, your poetry
Yeah,
over
very
Yeah.
good.
your 3 books. It was really, really nice to do that.
Thank you so much. Thanks.